The bridge of the USS Enterprise D hummed with its characteristic efficiency. Consoles chirping softly, the view screen displaying the rust-colored planet below, where 3 civilizations' futures hung in delicate balance. Captain Jean-Luc Picard stood before his command chair, hands clasped behind his back, reviewing the diplomatic brief on his pad. The Kalara summit had taken 6 months to organize. Federation, Klingon Empire, and 12 independent border worlds gathering to discuss territorial disputes, resource rights, and the persistent question of how advanced civilizations should regard their developing neighbors. It was the kind of multilateral negotiation Picard excelled at. Patient, principled, guided by Federation law and the Prime Directive's steady moral compass. Then, space itself tore open. Captain, massive subspace distortion off the starboard bow. Lieutenant Worf's voice carried both alarm and combat readiness. Unknown energy signature, not matching any known propulsion system. On screen. Picard stepped forward as the view screen shifted. Where empty space had been moments before, a writhing vortex of quantum blue light twisted reality like fabric under stress. The bridge crew's training held them steady, but Picard felt the familiar tightness in his chest that accompanied genuine scientific anomalies. The universe revealing something new, something that required understanding before judgment. Sensors detect a single humanoid life sign within the distortion. Data reported from Ops, his golden eyes reflecting the console's readouts. The energy matrix is collapsing. Whatever is inside will be expelled into normal space in approximately 15 seconds. Transporter room, prepare for emergency beam out. Picard ordered. Medical team to transporter room 1. Commander Riker, you have the bridge. He was already moving toward the turbo lift, acting on instinct honed through decades of first contact scenarios. If someone was trapped in that collapsing anomaly, Starfleet's first duty was preservation of life. The transporter room materialized around him as the turbo lift doors hissed open. Chief O'Brien stood at the controls, fingers dancing across the panel with practiced precision. Dr. Crusher arrived moments later, medical tricorder in hand, her expression mixing concern with scientific curiosity. The pattern is incredibly dense, Captain, O'Brien said, his Irish accent thickening slightly with concentration. Whatever material this person's wearing, it's unlike anything in our database. Molecular structure is, well, it's extraordinary. I've never seen energy absorption properties like this. Can you get a lock? Aye, sir. Compensating now. O'Brien's hands moved with the confidence of someone who transported everything from Hortus to Q. Energizing. The transporter pad shimmered with golden light, and reality reassembled itself into a figure that made Picard's archaeological instincts flare with recognition, not of the person, but of the archetype. The man who materialized stood with the bearing of royalty, encased in a suit of black material that seemed to drink the light around it, accented with silver patterns that suggested both artistry and function. A stylized mask covered his face, pointed ears swept back like a great cat's, and the entire ensemble radiated contained power. The figure swayed slightly, one hand going to his head as he oriented himself. Then, with fluid grace that spoke of perfect physical control, he straightened and assessed his surroundings in a single sweeping glance. When he spoke, his voice carried authority tempered with diplomacy. I am T'Challa, son of T'Chaka, king of Wakanda and protector of my people. He reached up and retracted his mask with a gesture, revealing a face of sharp intelligence and calm strength. Though I suspect I am very far from home. Picard stepped forward, hands visible and empty, the universal gesture of peaceful intent. I am Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Federation Starship Enterprise. You've emerged from a subspace anomaly in the year 2368 by our calendar. Welcome aboard, Your Majesty. T'Challa's eyes, sharp, analytical, missing nothing, studied Picard with an intensity the captain recognized. This was a man who assessed threats and opportunities with equal precision, who carried the weight of leadership in every movement. 2368. Federation, Starship. Each word was tested, evaluated. Either I've traveled through time, across dimensions, or both. The Quantum Bridge experiment was designed to connect Wakanda's knowledge networks across continental distances, not two. He gestured at the transporter room. Where am I, Captain Picard? Specifically. Approximately 47 light-years from Earth, in orbit around Kalara 4. You're aboard a Galaxy-class starship of the United Federation of Planets, an alliance of over 150 member worlds, dedicated to peaceful exploration and mutual cooperation. Dr. Crusher had been quietly scanning with her tricorder, and now she looked up with barely concealed fascination. Captain, his physiology is remarkable. Enhanced muscular density, accelerated healing factors, sensory acuity that exceeds baseline human norms by a significant margin. But it's clearly biological, not technological. I've never seen anything like it. T'Challa's expression remained neutral, but Picard detected the slight tension, the wariness of someone whose secrets had just been casually revealed. The heart-shaped herb, a sacred plant of my people that grants the Black Panther enhanced abilities to protect Wakanda. I assure you, Doctor, it is not available for study or replication. We would never presume, Picard began, but T'Challa raised a hand. Forgive me, Captain. I speak from habit. Wakanda has spent centuries protecting our resources and technology from those who would exploit them. His posture relaxed fractionally. You said peaceful exploration. That suggests a rather different philosophy than what I'm accustomed to from advanced powers. The Federation's founding principle is infinite diversity in infinite combinations, Picard replied. We seek understanding, not conquest. Self-determination, not exploitation. Though I suspect our philosophies will have ample opportunity for comparison. If you're willing, I'd like to understand how you came to be here. And then, perhaps we can discuss how to return you to your people. T'Challa studied him for a long moment, and Picard felt the weight of that gaze. A leader measuring another leader, seeking truth beneath protocol. Finally, the Wakandan king nodded. In Wakanda, we have a saying. In times of crisis, the wise build bridges, while the foolish build barriers. Very well, Captain Picard. Let us build bridges. The Enterprise's observation lounge offered a panoramic view of Kalara 4, a world caught between industrial revolution and environmental catastrophe. Its atmosphere thick with the brown haze of unchecked pollution. Picard sat at the head of the conference table, Commander Riker to his right, while T'Challa occupied the seat opposite with the natural authority of someone accustomed to negotiating matters of state. Data, Worf, and Counselor Troy completed the circle, each studying the Wakandan king with their particular expertise. Your technology is impressive, Captain, T'Challa said, gesturing toward the viewport. Faster than light travel, matter transportation, what your doctor called a replicator that can create objects from pure energy. Yet you station yourselves in orbit around a dying world and simply observe? Picard recognized the question for what it was. Not an accusation, but an opening move in a diplomatic chess match. The planet below is home to the Kalara, a pre-warp civilization. According to our Prime Directive, our most sacred law, We cannot interfere in their natural development, even to prevent catastrophe. Natural development. T'Challa repeated the words carefully, testing their weight. Captain, in the past hour, I've learned that your Federation spans thousands of light years and includes species I cannot even imagine. You possess the power to save that world below with minimal effort. Yet you choose not to act because of a law that prioritizes philosophical purity over lives? The Prime Directive exists precisely because we possess such power, Picard replied, his voice carrying the conviction of decades defending this principle. History has shown us repeatedly that interference, however well-intentioned, breeds dependency, robs civilizations of their agency, and fundamentally alters their cultural evolution. We have no right to play God, Your Majesty. Wakanda has a different philosophy. T'Challa leaned forward slightly. We believe that those with the power to help have a responsibility to do so, but with wisdom, with respect for sovereignty, and with careful consideration of consequences. We do not broadcast our capabilities, but neither do we stand idle when action could prevent unnecessary suffering. Counselor Troy spoke softly, her empathic abilities attuned to the currents beneath the conversation. You've faced this dilemma before, the weight of choosing when to reveal yourselves, when to intervene. Many times. T'Challa's expression darkened slightly. And I will not claim we always chose correctly, but we chose. We accepted responsibility for our power rather than hiding behind doctrine. Worf's deep voice rumbled into the pause. In Klingon philosophy, power without action is meaningless. A warrior who refuses to fight when battle is necessary dishonors himself and those he could protect. Lieutenant, Picard said with carefully controlled sharpness. Captain, I mean no disrespect to the Prime Directive, but the Klingon Empire has long questioned Federation willingness to watch worlds die in the name of non-interference. King T'Challa's perspective resonates with Klingon honor. T'Challa studied Worf with new interest. You're Klingon? Serving aboard a Federation vessel? I was raised by human parents after my people and the Federation became allies, Worf explained. I walk between two cultures, warrior tradition and Starfleet ideals. It is not always comfortable ground. I understand that tension well, T'Challa said. Wakanda isolated itself for centuries, while the world around us suffered colonization, slavery, exploitation. We told ourselves we were protecting our people, preserving our way of life. But protection without compassion becomes mere selfishness. Data tilted his head with characteristic precision. You imply that Wakanda has changed its approach to international engagement. May I ask what prompted this philosophical evolution? Necessity, vision, and the understanding that true strength lies not in isolation, but in selective, respectful cooperation. T'Challa paused, choosing his words carefully. My father began opening Wakanda to the world. I continued his work, establishing outreach centers, sharing medical technology, offering aid while preserving our sovereignty. We learned that we could help without surrendering who we are. A fascinating parallel, Picard acknowledged, though I must point out a critical difference. Wakanda, as you describe it, shares your planet with other human civilizations. Cultural exchange, technological disparity. These are matters between peoples of similar developmental stages. The Kalara below are centuries behind our technological capabilities. Our very presence in their skies would fundamentally alter their worldview. Would that alteration necessarily be negative? T'Challa countered. Captain. You've told me your Federation includes hundreds of species. Surely each first contact moment was transformative for the younger civilization, yet you clearly make contact eventually. How do you determine when a civilization is ready to learn they are not alone? When they develop warp capability, Riker interjected. It's our threshold for contact. A civilization that can break the light barrier has reached sufficient technological and social development to join the galactic community. An arbitrary line, T'Challa observed. What if the Kalara develop warp travel next year? Would they suddenly be worthy of saving? Would their lives matter then in a way they don't today? The silence that followed was thick with uncomfortable truth. Picard met T'Challa's gaze directly. Your Majesty, these are questions Starfleet officers wrestle with throughout our careers. The Prime Directive is not comfortable. It demands that we accept limitations on our power, that we trust in each civilization's right to forge its own destiny, even if that destiny includes extinction. It is the price of respecting true sovereignty. And if I told you I could save the Kalara without revealing advanced technology, without broadcasting my presence? T'Challa's voice remained level, but intensity crackled beneath the calm. In Wakanda, our scientists developed environmental restoration techniques that appear organic, that work within existing natural systems. I carry knowledge that could help that world below. Would your Prime Directive demand I remain silent? Troy leaned forward, her dark eyes compassionate but troubled. King T'Challa, I sense your conviction is genuine. You truly believe action is required. But I also sense Captain Picard's certainty. Both of you lead from principle, from deep moral foundations. This isn't about right and wrong. It's about two different philosophical approaches to power and responsibility. Then perhaps, T'Challa said quietly, we should examine what brings us to orbit around this particular world. Captain, you said I emerged from a subspace anomaly. I don't believe in coincidence. There's a reason I'm here now, during this summit you mentioned. Tell me what's truly at stake on Kalara 4. Picard exchanged glances with Riker, then tapped the console embedded in the table. A holographic display materialized above the surface, showing the planet below in cross-section. Deep beneath the surface, a brilliant crimson vein pulsed. Dilithium, Picard said, one of the largest deposits ever discovered. It's the crystal matrix that regulates matter-antimatter reactions in our warp drives, essential to all faster-than-light travel. Both the Federation and the Klingon Empire have strategic interests in securing future dilithium supplies. And the Kalara sit on top of this resource. The Enterprise's engineering section thrummed with barely contained energy, the massive warp core pulsing at its center like the heartbeat of some vast, mechanical deity. T'Challa stood before a diagnostic station where Lieutenant Commander Geordi LaForge was examining the Black Panther suit with undisguised fascination. His visor scanning across wavelengths human eyes could never perceive. This is incredible, Geordi breathed, running a tricorder over the Vibranium weave. The molecular lattice is unlike anything in our materials database. It's absorbing energy from the ambient environment, background radiation, heat, even the electromagnetic fields from the warp core, and storing it without any apparent upper limit. The efficiency is... He paused, searching for words. It's beyond our current understanding of physics. Vibranium, T'Challa explained, watching carefully as the Federation engineer explored his technology. A metal found only in Wakanda, the result of a meteorite impact thousands of years ago. We've spent centuries learning to work with it, to understand its properties. It doesn't simply absorb kinetic energy. It can store and redirect various forms of energy at the molecular level. Data stood nearby, his positronic brain processing information at superhuman speeds. Fascinating. Captain Picard mentioned that Wakanda isolated itself for centuries. May I inquire why a civilization with access to such remarkable material chose not to share it with the wider world? The question carried no judgment, only genuine curiosity. T'Challa appreciated that. Because the wider world has a history of taking what it wants from Africa. Vibranium in the wrong hands could have armed every colonial power, every dictator, every warlord with unstoppable weapons. My ancestors chose isolation as the price of security. A logical decision given historical context. Data acknowledged. Though it creates an interesting parallel to Captain Picard's defense of the Prime Directive. Both Wakanda and the Federation chose to limit their intervention in others' affairs despite possessing superior capabilities. With one critical difference, T'Challa countered. Wakanda's isolation was born of survival necessity. Your Prime Directive is born of philosophical preference. We hid because revelation meant exploitation. You hide because revelation might disturb someone's cultural development. Geordi looked up from his scanner, the visor making his expression difficult to read, but his voice carrying clear disagreement. With respect, Your Majesty, the Prime Directive isn't about hiding. It's about respecting the right of every civilization to make its own mistakes, to grow at its own pace. We've seen what happens when advanced civilizations impose their will on developing worlds. It never ends well. I've also seen what happens when those with power to help stand aside. T'Challa said quietly, "The calculus of intervention is never simple, Commander. But neither is the calculus of inaction." Before Geordi could respond, the suit's gauntlet emitted a soft chime. T'Challa touched a control, and a holographic display materialized above his wrist, Wakandan script flowing in elegant patterns that shifted and reformed. Data stepped closer, his enhanced vision capturing every detail. Your technology integrates holographic interfaces with remarkable sophistication, Data observed. And that writing system is unlike any Earth language in our database. May I ask what information you're accessing? Diagnostic data from my Kimoyo beads, T'Challa explained, manipulating the display. Personal interface technology that connects to Wakanda's information network, or rather, should connect. Whatever brought me here severed that connection. I'm attempting to recalibrate to local subspace frequencies, but your communication protocols are vastly different from anything in my experience. Geordi moved to a nearby console, fingers dancing across the interface. Our subspace communication operates on rotating phase-discriminated sub-carrier frequencies. If you give me access to your device's specifications, I might be able to help adapt the connection matrix. T'Challa hesitated, and Data immediately registered the pause. You are concerned about sharing Wakandan technology, an understandable reservation given your earlier explanation regarding isolation. It's not that I don't trust you personally, T'Challa said carefully. But I've just met you. I don't know your federation, don't understand your political structures, or how information flows through your society. In Wakanda, knowledge is power, and power requires responsibility. I need to understand who I'm sharing with before I open that door. A wise perspective, came Captain Picard's voice from the entrance. He descended the stairs into engineering with Dr. Crusher at his side. Though I hope our actions might earn that trust. For now, perhaps Dr. Crusher can answer some of the questions you had about our medical capabilities. Dr. Crusher approached with her medical tricorder already active, though she made no move to scan without permission. Your physiology is remarkable, Your Majesty. The heart-shaped herb you mentioned, may I ask how it works? The cellular enhancement appears biological rather than technological. The herb connects each Black Panther to Bast, the Panther goddess, and to all who wore the mantle before. T'Challa began, then paused at Crusher's expression. I see you don't believe in gods. The Federation encounters many beings with godlike powers. Picard interjected diplomatically. We've learned to maintain healthy skepticism while remaining open to perspectives beyond our understanding. Please, continue. T'Challa nodded slowly. Whether you interpret it as divine gift or advanced bioengineering from some ancient civilization, the effect is measurable. Enhanced strength, speed, reflexes, accelerated healing, heightened senses. It optimizes human potential without fundamentally altering what we are. Crusher's eyes lit with scientific interest. Could we take a blood sample? Understanding the mechanism might help us treat you if you're injured. And from a xenobiology perspective, no. The single word, spoken without hostility but with absolute finality, stopped Crusher mid-sentence. The heart-shaped herb is sacred to my people. T'Challa continued. Its secrets have been guarded for generations. I will not allow them to be studied, replicated, or distributed beyond Wakanda's borders. This is non-negotiable. Picard stepped forward slightly, his voice carefully neutral. Your Majesty, I must point out that you criticized our Prime Directive for allowing beings to die when we could help them. Yet you possess biological enhancements that could revolutionize medicine, and you refuse to share them. Isn't that the same principle? Withholding help to preserve an abstract value? T'Challa met Picard's gaze directly, and for a moment, the temperature in engineering seemed to drop. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled, a tight expression that acknowledged the hit. Touché, Captain. You found the contradiction at the heart of Wakandan philosophy, and I won't insult your intelligence by denying it. He moved to the viewport overlooking the warp core, his reflection superimposed over the pulsing energy. The difference, perhaps, is scale and intent. The heart-shaped herb cannot be replicated without Wakanda's unique soil, climate, and cultivation knowledge. Even if I shared everything, you couldn't reproduce it. But more importantly, it's not a cure for disease or a solution to suffering. It's a weapon, a way to create super soldiers. And history has shown what happens when such power spreads unchecked. So, you make the decision for all humanity, Geordi said quietly. You decide who's worthy of that knowledge and who isn't. Yes. T'Challa turned back to face them. I make that decision, as does every scientist who determines which research to publish, every government that classifies military technology, and every starship captain who obeys a Prime Directive that lets civilizations die. We all make decisions about knowledge and power, Commanders. The only question is whether we're honest about doing so. The silence that followed was broken by Worf's voice over the comm system. Bridge to Captain Picard. The Klingon delegation has arrived for the summit. Chancellor Gowron is requesting immediate transport to the surface. He seems agitated. Picard tapped his comm badge. Acknowledged. Have Commander Riker begin diplomatic protocols. I'll join shortly. He turned to T'Challa. Your Majesty, if you wish to observe the summit as we discussed, now would be the time. Though I should warn you, Klingon agitation typically means someone has already been insulted, threatened, or challenged to combat. Captain, in my first week as king, I faced down a challenge to the throne from a rival tribe, negotiated an arms treaty with a neighboring nation that despised Wakanda, and stopped an attempted coup by my own cousin. I think I can handle an agitated Klingon. T'Challa's kimoyo beads chimed again, and he glanced at the display. Though I would appreciate your Mr. LaForge's assistance with one matter first. Name it, Geordi said immediately. My suit's energy reserves are depleted from the dimensional crossing. In combat, I can absorb and redirect kinetic impacts, but I need an initial charge. Could your engineering section provide a controlled energy burst? Something equivalent to, say, a lightning strike. Geordi's face lit up. I can do better than that. Data, help me set up a plasma manifold discharge. We can channel energy directly from the warp core through a force field matrix. It'll be perfectly safe and give your suit more power than any natural lightning bolt. As the two engineers began configuring the equipment, Dr. Crusher moved closer to T'Challa, her expression thoughtful. Your Majesty, I want you to know, I understand your reluctance to share the heart-shaped herb's secrets. Medical ethics require consent and respect for cultural practices. I was out of line to ask for samples without first understanding the full context. Thank you, Doctor. That means more than you know. T'Challa paused, then added, if I'm injured and you need to treat me, I'll provide whatever information is medically necessary. My reluctance comes from protection, not paranoia. There's a difference. Indeed there is, Picard agreed, and it's a distinction worth remembering in the hours ahead. The surface of Kalara 4 pressed against them like a physical weight. Thick air, heavy with industrial pollutants, the sky a sickly amber that spoke of dying ecosystems and civilizational collapse racing toward inevitability. The summit facility had been constructed by Federation engineers in a remote region, far from Kalara population centers, a transparent dome that allowed observation of the planet's crisis while maintaining the careful fiction of non-interference. T'Challa materialized beside Captain Picard in a shimmer of transporter light, immediately dropping into a combat-ready crouch as his enhanced senses cataloged threats. The cavernous chamber held perhaps 30 beings. Federation diplomats in their crisp uniforms, a cluster of Klingons radiating controlled aggression, and delegates from a dozen worlds T'Challa didn't recognize, their physiologies ranging from humanoid to utterly alien. Your Majesty, Picard said quietly, you may wish to relax your posture. Klingons interpret defensive stances as either fear or challenge, neither of which will serve diplomatic purposes. T'Challa straightened slowly, though every instinct screamed at him to maintain tactical awareness. Through the dome's transparent ceiling, he could see Kalara settlements in the distance. Sprawling industrial cities choking on their own waste, rivers running colors no natural water should ever be. Forests reduced to stumps to feed the furnaces of unchecked growth. They're dying, he said softly. Right there, right now. And everyone in this room is calmly discussing property rights. We are discussing the future, came a deep, gravelly voice. A Klingon strode forward, his ridged forehead and warrior's bearing unmistakable even to someone from another universe. His armor was ornate, marking him as high-ranking, and his eyes held the cold calculation of someone who'd survived countless political battles. I am Chancellor Gowron of the Klingon High Council, and you, stranger, are disrupting a summit 3 months in preparation. Explain yourself before I decide you're a Federation trick and respond accordingly. Picard stepped forward smoothly. Chancellor, allow me to introduce King T'Challa of Wakanda. He arrived through an unexpected subspace anomaly and has requested observer status for these proceedings. His credentials as a head of state are unimpeachable. Gowron's eyes widened slightly, the Klingon equivalent of shock. A king? From where? I know every sovereign power in Federation space, and I've never heard of this Wakanda. That's because Wakanda is not in Federation space, T'Challa replied, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. Every delegate had stopped their conversations, attention now focused on the figure in the advanced black suit. I'm from Earth. A different Earth, perhaps, or possibly your Earth's past. The situation is complex, but Captain Picard has vouched for my presence here. A time traveler, Gowron said, his voice dripping skepticism. How convenient. The Federation produces a mysterious king from Earth's past, precisely when negotiations stall. And we're supposed to believe this is coincidence. Chancellor, I assure you, Picard began, but T'Challa raised a hand. Let me address Chancellor Gowron's suspicion directly. It's valid. T'Challa moved forward, closing the distance between himself and the Klingon leader with the confidence of someone utterly secure in his abilities. You don't know me. You have no reason to trust my arrival's timing. So let me be transparent. I'm here because a spatial anomaly pulled me from my world during a quantum bridge experiment. I have no allegiance to your Federation, no investment in your negotiations, and no reason to support either side's territorial claims. Gowron studied him with the intensity of a predator assessing prey, then surprised T'Challa by laughing, a harsh bark of sound that was somehow approving. At least you speak plainly. That's more than I can say for most Federation diplomats. He gestured toward the table. Very well, King T'Challa. Observe. Perhaps fresh eyes will see what weeks of circular debate have obscured. The delegates settled into their positions around a massive holographic display showing Kalara 4 in 3 dimensions. The dilithium deposits glowing like arterial blood beneath the surface. T'Challa took a position slightly apart from the main table, standing rather than sitting, a position that allowed him to observe without being formally part of the proceedings. A Vulcan woman with the severe efficiency of her species spoke first. Let us resume from yesterday's recess. The Federation's position remains unchanged. Kalara 4 should be designated a protected world once indigenous population decline reaches critical levels. The dilithium deposits would be extracted under strict environmental protocols, with profits held in trust for potential future inhabitants or distributed among border worlds for mutual benefit. The Klingon position also remains unchanged, Gowron replied, his voice hardening. The strong claim what the weak cannot hold. The Kalara are dying because they lack the wisdom to balance their growth with their environment. Why should the Klingon Empire, which has mastered space travel and conquered dozens of systems, be denied resources because of Federation sentiment? Because might doesn't make right, said a human diplomat T'Challa didn't recognize, her gray hair and weathered face suggesting decades of service. Because we've evolved beyond the philosophy that the powerful can simply take what they want. Have you? T'Challa's voice cut through the rising tension like a Vibranium blade. Every head turned toward him. Forgive my interruption, but I'm trying to understand the nature of this debate. As I see it, both sides agree the Kalara will die. Both sides agree their planet will then be available for resource extraction. The only disagreement is about who controls those resources and how they're distributed. Is that an accurate summary? The silence that followed was damning in its completeness. Your Majesty, Picard said carefully, you oversimplify a complex situation. The Federation seeks equitable distribution rather than imperial conquest. The principle matters. Does it? T'Challa gestured toward the holographic planet. From where I stand, Captain, the end result is identical regardless of principle. The Kalara die. You take their resources. The only difference is how guilty you feel about it afterward. A delegate from one of the border worlds, a insectoid being with translucent wings and compound eyes, clicked its mandibles in what the Universal Translator rendered as agreement. The human from another world speaks uncomfortable truth. For weeks, we have debated distribution of spoils while treating Kalara extinction as inevitable. Perhaps we should discuss prevention rather than inheritance. The Prime Directive prohibits, the Vulcan woman began. I know what your Prime Directive prohibits, T'Challa interrupted, his patience clearly wearing thin. Captain Picard has been very thorough in explaining your philosophy of non-interference. But answer me this. If the Kalara were warp-capable, would you help them? Yes, Picard replied without hesitation. If they requested assistance and we could provide it without creating dependency, yes. So their worthiness of help depends entirely on whether they've achieved a specific technological milestone, not on their capacity for suffering, not on their right to exist, not on any moral consideration, just on whether they've figured out faster than light travel. T'Challa's voice remained level, but intensity radiated from him like heat. In Wakanda, we would call that philosophy cruel. Gowron leaned back in his chair, a fierce grin spreading across his face. I like this king. He sees through Federation hypocrisy with admirable clarity. Tell me, T'Challa, if you led this summit, what would you propose? I would contact the Kalara leadership directly, T'Challa said immediately. I would inform them that their planet contains resources valuable to spacefaring civilizations. I would offer them technological assistance in exchange for mining rights, ensuring their civilization survives and they benefit from their own planet's wealth. I would treat them as sovereign beings with agency rather than inconvenient obstacles to be waited out. That violates every principle of the Prime Directive, the Vulcan woman said, her tone sharp. You would contaminate their culture, create dependency on advanced technology, and fundamentally alter their developmental trajectory. I would save their lives, T'Challa countered. And yes, I would change their trajectory. But change isn't automatically harm. Wakanda remained isolated for centuries, and that isolation had costs. We missed opportunities for connection, for growth, for learning from others. When we finally opened ourselves to the world, we did so on our terms, maintaining sovereignty while engaging with global civilization. Why couldn't the Kalara do the same? Because the power differential is too great, Picard said, his voice carrying the weariness of someone who'd had this argument countless times. Your Majesty, imagine if beings with technology indistinguishable from magic had arrived in Wakanda centuries ago, offering to solve all your problems. Would your people have developed Vibranium mastery? Would they have built their own scientific traditions? Or would they have become dependent on external saviors, their culture preserved in amber but fundamentally hollow? T'Challa was silent for a long moment, and Picard could see the argument landing, forcing consideration of perspectives beyond immediate moral clarity. You raise a valid point, Captain, T'Challa admitted. Dependency is a real risk. But there's a difference between offering help and imposing solutions. What if the Kalara were given information and allowed to choose? What if we presented options and respected their agency to determine their own fate? They are not equipped to understand the full implications of contact with spacefaring civilizations, the Vulcan woman said. Their cognitive frameworks lack the necessary conceptual foundations. It would be like explaining quantum mechanics to pre-industrial humans. The language itself becomes a barrier to comprehension. My people understood quantum mechanics long before your Federation knew Earth existed. T'Challa replied, a dangerous edge entering his voice. Don't mistake technological difference for intellectual inferiority. The Kalara may lack warp drive, but I guarantee they understand survival. They understand cooperation. They understand the choice between death and adaptation. Those concepts transcend technology. The insectoid delegate clicked again. King T'Challa raises points my world struggled with during our first contact with Federation. We were pre-warp when your ships arrived during natural disaster. You offered food, medicine, help that saved millions. You claimed to violate your Prime Directive because we detected your presence. But we always wondered, would you have helped if we hadn't seen your ships? Or would you have watched us die to preserve your principles? Picard's expression flickered with something that might have been pain. Ambassador Zirval, your world situation was exceptional. The disaster was unforeseeable, and your detection of our presence fundamentally changed the parameters. It always changes the parameters when pressed, Gowron interjected, his tone mocking. The Federation's Prime Directive is absolute until it becomes inconvenient. Then suddenly exceptions appear. At least the Klingon Empire is honest about our self-interest. We want the dilithium for our ships, our economy, our expansion. We don't dress it up in philosophical robes. Honesty about exploitation doesn't make exploitation noble, T'Challa said, turning his attention to Gowron. Chancellor, you speak of strength and conquest. But what kind of strength is it to claim resources from those who cannot defend themselves? In my culture, true strength lies in protecting the vulnerable, not preying upon them. Then your culture would not survive long in the galaxy, Gowron replied, though his tone lacked hostility. Every civilization reaches for advantage. Every power seeks resources. The Federation simply refuses to admit what they're doing, while the Klingon Empire owns our nature. Perhaps both your civilizations are wrong, T'Challa said quietly. Perhaps there's a third path, one that acknowledges self-interest while maintaining moral boundaries. One that seeks cooperation rather than domination or abandonment. The holographic display flickered suddenly, and a new image appeared. Kalara cities in real time, their populations moving through daily routines, utterly unaware that beings in orbit were discussing their extinction as if it were already accomplished. T'Challa watched a Kalara family, 2 adults and 3 smaller beings who must be their children, walking through a marketplace, and something in his chest tightened. Captain Picard, he said, not taking his eyes from the display. You told me the Kalara have 8 months before ecosystem collapse. What if I could buy them more time? Not by revealing myself, not by imposing Wakandan technology, but by introducing subtle environmental remediation that would appear natural to their science. It would still be interference, Picard replied. The result might be delayed extinction rather than survival, creating false hope and prolonging suffering. Or it might give them time to develop their own solutions. The observation deck of the Enterprise hung suspended above Kalara 4 like a meditation chamber, its floor-to-ceiling windows offering an unobstructed view of the dying world below. Captain Picard stood alone at the viewport, hands clasped behind his back in that characteristic posture. When T'Challa entered, the king had removed his mask, and his expression carried the weight of someone wrestling with decisions that affected millions of lives. You asked to speak privately, Picard said without turning. I assume you wish to continue our debate about intervention. I wish to understand you, Captain. T'Challa moved to stand beside him, both men studying the planet below. You're clearly a man of principle. I've watched you navigate that summit with patience that borders on superhuman. You genuinely believe in this Prime Directive, don't you? It's not political convenience or bureaucratic cover. You actually think non-interference is morally correct. I do. Picard finally turned to face him. But that doesn't make it easy. Your Majesty, do you know how many times I've stood at viewports like this, watching civilizations face extinction, knowing I possess the power to help? The Prime Directive doesn't spare us from anguish. It simply asks us to endure that anguish rather than impose our will on others. That's masochism dressed as philosophy, T'Challa said bluntly. You're prioritizing your own moral purity over actual lives. The Kalara don't benefit from your anguish, Captain. They just die while you feel appropriately terrible about it. Picard's expression hardened slightly. You think this is about my feelings? Your Majesty, the Prime Directive exists because we've seen what happens when advanced civilizations intervene. We have centuries of documented cases where well-intentioned contact destroyed cultures, created cargo cults, bred dependency that crippled entire worlds' development. We learned these lessons through tragic mistakes, and the Prime Directive is our attempt to never repeat them. Show me, T'Challa said suddenly. You say you have documented cases. Show me the evidence that justifies letting the Kalara die. Picard studied him for a long moment, then moved to a wall console. Computer, access Starfleet historical database. Display case studies. Cultural contamination, developmental interference, Protocol 77 Charlie. The viewport transformed into a display screen, images and data flowing past. Picard narrated as they watched. The planet Mintaka 3, a Bronze Age civilization that observed a Federation anthropological outpost. They interpreted our technology as divine power, and within 2 years had abandoned their own cultural development to worship Starfleet as gods. It took decades of careful work to undo that damage. Another image replaced it. Sigma Iotia 2, contacted by the USS Horizon in 2168 before the Prime Directive was formalized. The ship's crew left behind a book about Chicago gangsters from Earth's 20th century. The Iotians, impressed by Earth visitors, modeled their entire civilization on that book. An entire world became a parody of Earth's violent past because of one careless cultural contamination. More examples flowed past. Worlds where contact had bred dependency, where advanced medicine had caused population explosions and resource wars, where technology given as gift became weapon of oppression when local power structures weaponized it against their own people. I see civilizations that were harmed by careless intervention, T'Challa acknowledged. But Captain, I also see a pattern. Every example you've shown involved outsiders imposing their culture, their technology, their values. No one asked these civilizations what they wanted. No one treated them as equals with agency. That's not intervention, that's colonialism. And how would you make it different? Picard challenged. How do you offer help to a civilization that doesn't know you exist without fundamentally changing their reality? The moment we reveal ourselves, we alter everything. They can't unknow that aliens exist, that technology beyond their dreams is possible, that knowledge alone transforms their development. So, your solution is to never reveal yourselves until they reach some arbitrary technological threshold, T'Challa said. But Captain, consider this. What if the Kalara are one scientific breakthrough away from solving their environmental crisis? What if they're on the cusp of discovering the exact technology they need, but they run out of time? Your Prime Directive doesn't just prevent interference, it prevents chance. It ensures that only civilizations who solve every problem within their particular time frame survive. Picard was silent, and T'Challa pressed forward. In Wakanda, we had legends of the gods, beings of great power who shaped our world. When our scientists examined those legends rationally, we realized they were likely accounts of advanced beings who'd visited Earth in ancient times. That knowledge didn't destroy us, Captain. It inspired us. It told us the universe was larger than we imagined, that humanity wasn't alone, that greatness was possible. And if those visitors had stayed, Picard asked quietly, if they decided to help Wakanda develop faster, given you technology you hadn't earned through your own innovation, would you have developed Vibranium mastery? Would your scientists have made the discoveries that define Wakandan advancement? Or would you have become skilled users of someone else's gifts, dependent on their continued generosity? The question struck home, and T'Challa's expression showed he felt the weight of it. I don't know, he admitted. Perhaps we would have lost something essential. Perhaps dependency would have hollowed out our culture. He paused, then added, but we would have survived to face that question. The Kalara won't even get that chance. There are fates worse than death, Picard said, and his voice carried centuries of Federation philosophy. Cultural death, the loss of everything that makes a civilization unique, reduced to pale imitation of their saviors. We've seen it happen, Your Majesty. We've watched worlds that survived physically but died spiritually. Their people going through motions of lives that no longer held meaning because they'd been robbed of the struggle that defines identity. You're describing colonialism again, T'Challa insisted. Everything you fear, dependency, cultural death, loss of identity, those are the symptoms of conquest, not cooperation. When Wakanda finally opened itself to the world, we didn't lose our culture. We shared it selectively, learned from others while maintaining sovereignty. The fear you describe isn't about contact. It's about the nature of that contact. Picard moved back to the viewport, his reflection superimposed over the dying world below. Perhaps you're right. Perhaps there's a way to make contact that respects agency and preserves cultural integrity. But Your Majesty, we have 8 months. The Kalara don't have time for us to develop perfect protocols, to ease them gently into galactic awareness. Any intervention now would be rushed, desperate. Exactly the kind of cultural contamination most likely to cause harm. So they die because we can't figure out how to help them properly, T'Challa said flatly. That's your position. They die because they made choices, industrial expansion without environmental consideration, that have consequences, Picard replied, and there was steel in his voice now. That's not cruelty, Your Majesty. That's respecting their agency, even when we disagree with their choices. The Prime Directive says civilizations have the right to make mistakes, to fail, to face the consequences of their decisions without cosmic parents intervening to save them from themselves. And what about cosmic predators waiting for them to die so they can harvest the corpse? T'Challa gestured toward where the summit continued below. Your Prime Directive prevents you from helping the Kalara, but it doesn't prevent the Klingons from claiming their planet's resources the moment they expire. How is that respecting their agency? Picard's jaw tightened. It's not. And that's a contradiction within Federation policy I've struggled with throughout my career. We can't interfere to help developing civilizations, but we also can't stop other powers from claiming abandoned worlds. The ethics are murky. T'Challa repeated, a bitter laugh escaping him. Captain, I've negotiated with colonial powers who justified exploitation with prettier words than yours. At least they admitted they wanted resources. Your Federation wraps imperial ambition in philosophical complexity and calls it morality. That's not fair, Picard said sharply, real anger flashing across his features for the first time. The Federation isn't perfect. Our principles sometimes conflict with our actions. We're aware of the contradictions, and we struggle with them constantly. But we're trying, Your Majesty. We're trying to be better than humanity's brutal past, to build a civilization based on cooperation rather than conquest. That attempt matters, even when we fail to achieve it perfectly. T'Challa met his anger with calm. I don't doubt your sincerity, Captain. But good intentions have paved many roads to atrocity. In Wakanda, we learned that the powerful have a responsibility to examine not just their intentions, but their impacts. Your Federation intends to respect the Kalara's sovereignty. The impact is that you watch them die. Which matters more, what you mean to do, or what you actually do? Before Picard could respond, the door chimed. Come, he called, and Commander Riker entered, his expression troubled. Captain, we have a situation. The Klingon delegation just announced they're deploying mining survey teams to Kalara Fee's southern continent, the uninhabited region above the main dilithium deposits. They claim it doesn't violate the Prime Directive since no Kalara live there, but it establishes physical presence and demonstrates Klingon intent to claim the planet. Picard finished grimly. A provocation designed to force our hand. If we object, we acknowledge the planet is disputed territory. If we don't object, we tacitly accept their claim. There's more, Riker continued, glancing at T'Challa uncertainly. One of the Border World delegates, Ambassador Zerval, has requested a private meeting with King T'Challa. She says her people remember what it's like to face extinction while advanced civilizations debate their fate. T'Challa straightened. Where? Shuttle Bay 2. She's waiting there now. Riker paused. Captain, should we monitor the conversation? We don't know what she might propose. No, Picard said after a moment's consideration. King T'Challa is a head of state and guest aboard this ship. He's entitled to private diplomatic consultations. He turned to T'Challa. Though I would ask, Your Majesty, if you're planning something that might compromise the Prime Directive, please give me the courtesy of advance warning. So you can stop me? T'Challa asked, but there was no heat in the question. So I can try to find an alternative that satisfies both our principles, Picard replied. We don't have to be adversaries in this, Your Majesty. We both want what's right for the Kalara. We simply disagree about what right means. T'Challa studied the captain for a long moment, then nodded slowly. You're a good man, Jean-Luc Picard. Frustrating, bound by doctrine I find morally questionable, but fundamentally good. That makes this harder, not easier. He moved toward the door, then paused. In Wakanda, we have a saying: the wise build bridges, while the foolish build barriers. I hope we can build bridges, Captain. But if I must choose between your Prime Directive and lives I can save, I will save the lives. It's not a threat. It's a promise about who I am. After he left, Riker turned to Picard. Sir, should we be concerned? He's clearly planning something. Picard stared out at Kalara 4, at the cities choking on their own progress, at the families going about their daily lives, unaware of the cosmic debate surrounding their existence. Mr. Riker, I'm concerned we're all planning something. Federation, Klingon, King T'Challa. The question is whether any of our plans will actually help the Kalara, or if we're all simply performing our various philosophies while a civilization dies. That's unusually cynical for you, sir. Perhaps, Picard acknowledged. Or perhaps King T'Challa has forced me to examine assumptions I've held for decades. Either way, alert security to monitor the situation discreetly. If King T'Challa attempts to beam down to Kalara 4, I want to know immediately. Understood. And sir, for what it's worth, I think he's right about one thing. The contradictions in our position are becoming harder to ignore. After Riker left, Picard remained at the viewport alone, watching the dying world and wondering if the Prime Directive's noble principles would someday be recorded in history as humanity's greatest moral achievement or its most elaborate excuse for convenient inaction. Shuttle Bay 2 was quieter than the rest of the Enterprise. The cavernous space holding several auxiliary craft and the constant low hum of maintaining atmospheric integrity against the void beyond. Ambassador Zhirval waited near a Type 6 shuttlecraft, her translucent wings catching the light in prismatic patterns. As T'Challa approached, she made a gesture he didn't recognize, something involving all 4 of her upper limbs crossing at complex angles. "King T'Challa," she said through the Universal Translator's pleasant monotone that stripped away any emotional context. "Thank you for meeting me. I suspect Captain Picard would disapprove of what I'm about to discuss." "Then perhaps we should speak plainly," T'Challa replied, studying the insectoid ambassador with interest. Her species' body language was difficult to read, but he'd learned long ago that sincerity transcended biology. "You said your people remember facing extinction while others debated your fate. Tell me about that." Zhirval's wings trembled, a response T'Challa couldn't interpret. 73 years ago, our world faced catastrophic solar radiation when our sun experienced unexpected instability. We detected Federation ships in orbit and signaled them, begging for help. They debated for 6 days whether intervening violated their Prime Directive while my people died by the thousands. Finally, they decided our detection of their presence constituted contamination, which allowed them to provide aid. 6 days, T'Challa repeated quietly. How many died during that debate? 41,000 by our final count. Mostly children and elderly, those most vulnerable to radiation sickness. The translator somehow conveyed bitterness despite its neutral tone. The Federation saved millions, and we're grateful. But we've never forgotten those 6 days, or the casual way they discussed our extinction as a philosophical problem rather than a moral emergency. And now you see the Kalara facing the same indifference, T'Challa said. Worse than indifference. At least with my people, the Federation genuinely struggled with the ethics. With the Kalara, they've already decided. The Prime Directive provides convenient cover for standing aside, while the Klingons position themselves to claim resources. Federation hands stay clean, Klingon empire expands, and the Kalara die unaware they were ever part of anyone's calculations. Zhirval moved closer, her compound eyes reflecting T'Challa's masked face in fragmentary images. You're not bound by their Prime Directive. You're from outside this universe's politics and philosophies. You could act where they cannot. Or will not, T'Challa corrected. Ambassador, what exactly are you proposing? My government has authorized me to provide my personal shuttle and its cloaking device, Zhirval said quietly. Border worlds don't have access to Federation cloaking technology, but we've acquired other options. With it, you could reach Kalara Phi's surface undetected, make contact with their leadership and offer assistance that appears to come from within their own world rather than beyond. T'Challa was silent for a long moment, considering the implications. You're asking me to violate Federation law using technology provided by a Federation ally. That would put your world at risk of political consequences. My world remembers dying while bureaucrats debated, Zhirval replied, her voice, even through translation, carrying fierce conviction. If we face Federation sanctions for choosing conscience over policy, so be it. Some decisions transcend political convenience, King T'Challa. You said as much in the summit chamber. I did. T'Challa moved to examine the shuttlecraft, his tactical mind already assessing capabilities and risks. But I should be clear about something, Ambassador. I don't know if intervention is the right choice. Captain Picard raised valid concerns about cultural contamination, dependency, and unintended consequences. My certainty about acting doesn't mean I'm certain about the outcome. The Kalara are going to die, Zhirval stated flatly. Intervention risks unknown consequences. Inaction guarantees extinction. Which risk is more acceptable? Before T'Challa could answer, a deep voice echoed through the shuttle bay. An interesting question, Ambassador, and one that reveals much about your species' philosophy. T'Challa spun, dropping into combat stance as 3 Klingons emerged from behind a nearby shuttlecraft. The leader was Worf, the Enterprise's security chief. But he was flanked by 2 Klingons in ornate armor that marked them as High Council representatives. Gowron's people, not Starfleet officers. Lieutenant Worf, T'Challa said carefully, not relaxing his posture. Are you here to stop us? I am here because Ambassador Zhirval's movements triggered security protocols, Worf replied, his tone professionally neutral. Cloaking devices are illegal under the Treaty of Algeron. Her possession of such technology constitutes a treaty violation that I am obligated to report. And yet you brought Klingon delegates instead of Starfleet security, T'Challa observed. That seems like an unusual interpretation of protocol, Lieutenant. One of the Klingon delegates laughed, a harsh, approving sound. You're clever, human king. Yes, Lieutenant Worf informed us before informing his captain. Because Worf understands what Starfleet forgets. Action matters more than principles. Commander Kroteg, Worf said warningly. I brought you here to observe, not to interfere. Observe what? T'Challa asked, his mind racing through tactical scenarios. 3 Klingons, all armed. Ambassador Zhirval likely not combat capable. A shuttle bay with multiple exit points, but also multiple ways to be trapped. What exactly is happening here, Lieutenant? Worf's expression was carefully neutral, but T'Challa caught something in his eyes. Conflict, perhaps, or recognition of a familiar struggle. King T'Challa, you remind me of someone I used to know. A Klingon named Kern, who was my brother. He believed action was always superior to inaction, that honor demanded intervention regardless of law. I watched that philosophy nearly destroy him. So you're here to stop me, T'Challa concluded. I'm here to offer context, Worf replied. The Klingon Empire respects strength and action. If you violate Federation law to help the Kalara, you demonstrate the kind of decisive leadership Klingons value. Chancellor Gowron would be impressed. He might even reconsider Klingon claims on Kalara 4 if a warrior king took personal responsibility for the world's fate. Commander Kroteg stepped forward, his scarred face splitting in a fierce grin. Lieutenant Worf is too diplomatic. I'll speak plainly. The Klingon Empire has no interest in babysitting a dying world. We want dilithium, yes, but we prefer to take it from worthy opponents or claim it from abandoned worlds. If you save the Kalara, King T'Challa, and then negotiate on their behalf, you become their voice in galactic politics. The Klingon Empire could respect a treaty with you. We cannot respect a treaty with the Federation that prevents anyone from claiming a protected corpse. T'Challa processed this rapidly. You're saying if I intervene, take responsibility for the Kalara's survival, and speak for them in diplomatic negotiations, the Klingon Empire would deal with me instead of simply waiting for them to die and taking the planet. Perhaps, Kroteg said, if you prove yourself worthy. Klingons respect strength, King T'Challa. Strength of conviction, strength of action. Your Federation respects rules and debates. Guess which philosophy actually shapes the galaxy? This is a trap, Zirval said suddenly, her wings flaring in what might have been alarm. They're goading you into violating Federation law so they can discredit both you and Captain Picard. The Klingons want to fracture the summit, create political chaos. Or, Worf interrupted, his voice cutting through the rising tension. We're offering King T'Challa information he needs to make an informed decision. The Federation will oppose his intervention. That's certain. But the Klingon Empire's opposition isn't certain. If he acts with honor, takes responsibility for his choices, and proves himself a warrior worthy of respect, diplomatic options emerge that don't exist within Federation paralysis. T'Challa studied Worf carefully. You're walking a very fine line, Lieutenant. You serve Starfleet, but you're advocating for Klingon philosophy. Where do your loyalties actually lie? With honor, Worf replied immediately. I serve Starfleet because I believe in the Federation's ideals. But I am Klingon, and Klingon wisdom teaches that principles without action are meaningless. You stand at a crossroads. King T'Challa, the Federation path. Obey the Prime Directive. Watch the Kalara die. Preserve your relationship with Captain Picard. The Klingon path? Act with strength. Accept responsibility for consequences. Forge your own honor regardless of others' approval. Choose. There's a third path, T'Challa said quietly. Find a way to help the Kalara that doesn't require violating Federation law or playing into Klingon political games. A path that respects both principle and life. If such a path existed, Zirval said, the Federation would have found it decades ago, applied it to dozens of dying worlds. The truth, King T'Challa, is that Starfleet philosophy creates impossible dilemmas by design. The Prime Directive forces binary choices, interfere completely or remain completely uninvolved, because any middle ground would require admitting the philosophy itself is flawed. Commander Kroteg moved closer to the shuttlecraft, running his hand along its hull appreciatively. Beautiful machine, Ambassador. The cloaking device is Romulan, yes? Acquired through back channels, I assume. Your border worlds are more resourceful than the Federation gives you credit for. He turned to T'Challa. If you use this shuttle, you'll need someone who understands orbital insertion tactics and planetary infiltration. Someone who knows how to approach a pre-warp civilization without triggering panic. You're volunteering? T'Challa asked skeptically. I'm acknowledging that a warrior king from another universe probably doesn't know the first thing about covert operations in Federation space. Kroteg replied bluntly. You have courage, strength, and conviction. But you lack tactical knowledge of this galaxy's realities. I could provide that knowledge. At what price? T'Challa demanded. Personal honor, Kroteg said simply. If you save the Kalara and negotiate their entry into galactic politics, I want to be known as the Klingon who aided that effort. Not for Empire strategy, not for High Council politics, for the personal honor of helping forge something new. A Klingon tradition you might appreciate, King T'Challa. Sometimes warriors transcend their governments to do what's right. Worf's communicator chirped. Lieutenant Worf, report to the bridge immediately. Captain Picard wants a security update on King T'Challa's location. Worf met T'Challa's eyes. I must go, and I must report what I've observed here. But King T'Challa, the report will take time to file properly. Perhaps 15 minutes. You're giving me a head start, T'Challa said. I'm following proper security protocols, which require thorough documentation before reporting to the captain, Worf replied, his tone absolutely neutral. What you do with those 15 minutes is your decision. But know this. If you act, Captain Picard will pursue you. He's my commanding officer, and I respect him deeply. Whatever happens next, I will follow his orders. This moment, this choice I'm offering you, is the only assistance I can provide. The bridge of the Enterprise erupted into controlled chaos the moment sensors detected the unauthorized shuttle launch. Captain Picard stood at the center of the storm, his expression carved from ice as he processed the betrayal. Shuttle 23 has cleared the bay, Ensign Gates reported from the ops station, her voice tight with tension. Cloaking signature detected. Romulan design. Sir, they're heading directly for Kalara 4. Who's aboard? Picard demanded, though he already knew the answer. Lieutenant Worf's voice was carefully neutral as he read from his security console. King T'Challa, Ambassador Zhirval, and Commander Kroteg of the Klingon High Council. The shuttle was modified with a cloaking device, illegal under the Treaty of Algeron. Ambassador Zhirval's people must have provided it. And you knew, Picard said quietly, turning to face his security chief. You gave them time to launch before reporting. Worf met his captain's gaze directly. I followed proper security protocols. Documentation required. Don't insult my intelligence, Lieutenant. Picard's voice was soft, but it cut like a vibranium blade. You made a choice. You let them go. Yes, sir. Worf's posture remained rigid. I believed King T'Challa deserved the opportunity to act according to his conscience, just as you act according to yours. And now, I have no choice but to stop him. Picard moved to his command chair but didn't sit. Mr. Data, can you penetrate their cloaking device? Data's fingers flew across his console with inhuman precision. The Romulan cloaking technology is sophisticated, Captain. But our sensors have been upgraded since the Enterprise's encounter with the Pegasus. I am detecting minor subspace variances that suggest their trajectory. However, once they enter Kalara the Fee's atmosphere, the cloaking field will be disrupted by ionization. They will become visible to both our sensors and potentially to Kalara observation stations. Time until atmospheric entry? Picard asked. 4 minutes, 37 seconds at their current velocity. Picard tapped his comm badge. Picard to Transporter Room 3. Lock on to King T'Challa's biosignature and beam him directly to the brig. Chief O'Brien's voice came back immediately. Captain, I'm trying, but the shuttle's shields are blocking the transporter signal. And with the cloaking device active, I can't get a reliable lock even if the shields dropped. Tractor beam? Picard asked. We'd have to decloak them first, Riker replied from the tactical station. The tractor beam can't maintain a lock on a cloaked vessel moving at high impulse through a gravity well. Picard's jaw tightened. Options, people. I need to stop that shuttle before they contaminate a pre-warp civilization. We could fire a warning shot across their bow, Riker suggested. close enough to make them reconsider, far enough to avoid damage. They have a Klingon warrior aboard, Worf said quietly. Commander Kroteg will interpret warning shots as weakness. It will only strengthen his resolve to complete the mission. Counselor Troy had been quiet until now, but she spoke up from her seat beside the captain's chair. Captain, I should mention something I sensed during the summit. King T'Challa's determination isn't reckless or impulsive. He genuinely believes he's making the moral choice, and he's aware of the risks. He's not acting in ignorance of the consequences. He's accepted them. That doesn't make his actions correct, Picard replied. Good intentions have contaminated dozens of civilizations, Counselor. The road to cultural destruction is paved with individuals certain they knew better than centuries of established protocol. With respect, Captain, Data interjected. We are facing an unusual situation. King T'Challa is not a Starfleet officer bound by our regulations. He is a sovereign leader from another universe who has explicitly stated he does not recognize the Prime Directive's authority. From a legal standpoint, our ability to stop him is questionable. Picard turned sharply. Are you suggesting I should allow a violation of the Prime Directive because the violator isn't technically bound by it? I am suggesting that our ethical position may be more complex than it appears, Data replied evenly. The Prime Directive governs Starfleet personnel and Federation citizens. King T'Challa is neither. If we use force to stop him, we are imposing Federation law on a non-Federation entity, which could itself be seen as a violation of his civilization's sovereignty. Data's right, Riker said, though he looked unhappy about it. The legal precedents are murky. If T'Challa were a civilian from a Federation world, we'd have clear authority. But he's a head of state from outside our jurisdiction. Stopping him by force could create a diplomatic incident. We're already in a diplomatic incident, Picard said tersely. The moment that shuttle touches down on Kalara 4, the Prime Directive is violated. Every government at that summit will be watching how we respond. If we fail to act decisively, we signal that the Prime Directive is negotiable. And that sets a precedent that could undermine Federation policy for decades. The bridge fell silent as the weight of that realization settled over the crew. This wasn't just about the Kalara anymore. It was about whether the Federation's most sacred principle could withstand challenge from outside its philosophical framework. Captain, Ensign Gates said suddenly, I'm detecting a transmission from the shuttle. Audio only, directed specifically to the Enterprise. It's King T'Challa. On speakers, Picard ordered. T'Challa's voice filled the bridge, and despite the tension, Picard noted the King's tone remained respectful. Captain Picard, I know you're tracking us. I know you're considering how to stop this mission. Before you do, I ask that you hear me out. Your Majesty, Picard replied, his voice tight with controlled anger. You are about to violate the Prime Directive and contaminate a pre-warp civilization. There is nothing you can say that will change those facts. Perhaps not, T'Challa acknowledged. But I can explain my reasoning, and perhaps you'll understand even if you disagree. Captain, I've spent the past hours listening to your arguments. I've seen the historical cases of cultural contamination. I've wrestled with the ethical complexity of intervention. And I've concluded that your Prime Directive, whatever its noble intentions, is fundamentally flawed. That's not your determination to make. Picard shot back. Isn't it? T'Challa's voice carried gentle challenge. Captain, you've told me the Federation believes in infinite diversity in infinite combinations. You respect different cultures, different approaches, different philosophies. But your Prime Directive extends your particular philosophy to civilizations that never consented to it. You're imposing your non-interference policy on the Kalara without giving them any say in the matter. How is that respecting their agency? Data tilted his head, processing this argument with evident interest. Troy leaned forward slightly, her empathic senses clearly detecting something in T'Challa's emotional state. Even Riker's expression showed conflicted consideration. But Picard's voice remained firm. The Kalara can't consent to contact because they don't know we exist. That's the nature of pre-warp civilizations. They lack the context to understand what they're consenting to. So you make the choice for them. See continue, T'Challa replied. You decide they're better off dying in ignorance than living with knowledge of the wider universe. Captain, I'm from Earth. A version of Earth that never developed your particular philosophy about non-interference. In my world, when Wakanda finally revealed itself to the global community, it was transformative. Difficult, yes. Complicated, absolutely. But ultimately, connection was better than isolation. The Kalara deserved that same opportunity. 2 minutes to atmospheric entry, Data reported quietly. Picard moved closer to the view screen, as if physical proximity to T'Challa's voice might somehow bridge the philosophical chasm between them. Your Majesty, you're assuming the Kalara will benefit from contact, but you have no way to know that. You're gambling with an entire civilization's cultural integrity based on your personal belief system. And you're letting them die based on yours, T'Challa countered. Captain, neither of us has perfect knowledge. Neither of us can guarantee our choice is correct. But I choose to err on the side of action rather than inaction. I choose to give the Kalara a chance to save themselves, even if that chance comes with risks. That's what it means to be a protector, accepting responsibility for the consequences of your power, rather than hiding behind rules that let you feel moral while doing nothing. That's not fair, Counselor Troy said suddenly, surprising everyone. Captain Picard doesn't hide behind the Prime Directive. He wrestles with it, agonizes over it. King T'Challa, I sense your conviction, but I also sense you're oversimplifying the captain's position. Perhaps I am, T'Challa acknowledged. And if I'm wrong, if my intervention causes the harm Captain Picard fears, I'll accept responsibility for that. But Counselor, ask yourself, if the Kalara had the choice between extinction and the risks of contact, what would they choose? And who are we to deny them that choice? 1 minute to atmospheric entry, Data intoned. Picard's hands gripped the edge of his command chair. Mr. Worf, charge phasers. Target the shuttle's propulsion system. Minimal power. Disable, don't destroy. Sir? Worf's voice carried surprise. You heard me, Lieutenant. I won't let the Prime Directive be violated without response. If King T'Challa won't turn back voluntarily, I'll stop him by force. Captain, Riker said urgently, if we fire on that shuttle and it crashes in Kalara airspace, we'll contaminate them anyway, and we might kill everyone aboard. I'm aware of the risks, number one. Picard's voice was cold. But I won't stand by while... Captain, Ensign Gates interrupted. Multiple ships decloaking around the shuttle. Romulan warbirds, 3 of them. They're positioning between us and King T'Challa's craft. The view screen shifted to show 3 massive Romulan vessels materializing from empty space. Their distinctive avian designs unmistakable. They formed a protective triangle around the small shuttle, weapons charged and pointed directly at the Enterprise. Incoming transmission from the lead warbird. Gates reported, her voice tight with tension. On screen, Picard ordered. A Romulan commander appeared on the view screen, her expression calculated and cold. Captain Picard, I am Commander Tomalak of the Romulan Star Empire. I regret informing you that the shuttle you're pursuing has entered Romulan protection. Any attack on that vessel will be considered an act of war against the Empire. Commander Tomalak, Picard said, forcing calm into his voice despite the rage building in his chest. That shuttle is operating illegally with stolen Romulan technology. Surely the Empire doesn't condone. The Empire condones whatever serves our interests, Tomalak interrupted smoothly. And currently, our interests align with King T'Challa's mission. The Romulan Star Empire has watched the Federation's Prime Directive allow strategic resources to fall into Klingon hands for decades. If this king from another universe wishes to establish the Kalara as an independent power with diplomatic representation, we find that intriguing. You're using him, Picard said flatly. You're manipulating King T'Challa to undermine Federation policy in this sector. We're providing protection to a sovereign leader pursuing his diplomatic objectives, Tomalak replied, her smile sharp. How you interpret that is your concern, Captain. But know this, if you fire on that shuttle, you fire on Romulan protected assets. The Neutral Zone Treaty will be void, and the consequences will extend far beyond one pre-warp world. The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. They were waiting, Worf said quietly. The Romulans knew King T'Challa would attempt this. They've been monitoring the summit, waiting for an opportunity to exploit Federation principles against us. Captain, Data said. The shuttle has entered Kalara 4's atmosphere. It is no longer cloaked. Kalara's sensors are detecting the vessel. We have lost the opportunity to prevent first contact. Picard sank into his command chair, the weight of the moment pressing down on him like a physical force. Everything he'd spent his career defending, the Prime Directive, the careful protocols of cultural development, the Federation's commitment to non-interference, had just been shattered by a king from another universe, a desperate ambassador and Romulan scheming. Mr. Data, he said quietly, monitor the situation on Kalara 4. Record everything. If this goes as badly as I fear, the evidence will be crucial for understanding where we failed. And if it doesn't go badly? Troy asked softly. If King T'Challa succeeds? Picard's expression was unreadable. Then the Federation will face a very difficult question about whether our most sacred principle has been protecting civilizations or simply protecting our own moral certainty. Either way, Counselor, nothing will be quite the same after today. On the view screen, the Romulan warbirds maintained their position, a silent challenge to everything Starfleet stood for. And somewhere below, on a dying world that had never known it wasn't alone, a king from Wakanda was about to rewrite the rules of first contact. The shuttle descended through Kalara 4's polluted atmosphere, with Commander Kroteg at the controls, his Klingon reflexes managing the buffeting winds with practiced efficiency. T'Challa stood behind him, watching the rust-colored landscape materialize through the viewport, sprawling industrial cities connected by crude transportation networks, smokestacks belching toxins into an already dying sky. And beyond the urban sprawl, vast stretches of deforested land turning to desert. The environmental collapse is more advanced than Federation scans indicated, Ambassador Zirval observed, her compound eyes reflecting the devastation below. 6 months, perhaps less, before total ecosystem failure. Then we don't have time for subtlety, T'Challa said. He'd removed his mask, knowing that his human face would be less threatening than the Black Panther's fierce visage. Commander Kroteg, the capital city. Can you land us near their seat of government without causing panic? There's a structure that appears ceremonial. Large plaza, symbolic architecture, Kroteg replied, studying his tactical display. Probably their equivalent of a parliament or council chamber. I can set us down there at dawn, before the plaza fills with civilians. Give you a few hours to make your case before the population realizes aliens have landed. And if their military responds with force? T'Challa asked. Kroteg's laugh was harsh. Their most advanced weapons are chemical propellants firing solid projectiles. My armor could withstand their entire military. Your Vibranium suit makes you effectively invulnerable to anything they possess. We're not in danger, King T'Challa. They are, from their own fear of what we represent. T'Challa absorbed this, the weight of his decision settling deeper with each passing moment. Captain Picard's warnings echoed in his mind. Cultural contamination, dependency, the destruction of developmental autonomy. But he pushed those doubts aside. The Kalara were dying. Whatever risks came with contact, they had to be better than guaranteed extinction. There's another consideration, Zerval said quietly. The Romulans didn't protect us out of altruism. They'll want something in return. Access to the Kalara, influence over their development, perhaps even basing rights once the world is stabilized. King T'Challa, by accepting Romulan protection, you've already entangled the Kalara in galactic politics. I know. T'Challa's voice was tight. I'm not naive about what I've done. But the alternative was letting Captain Picard stop us, which meant letting the Kalara die. I chose the lesser evil. Did you? Kroteg asked, surprisingly philosophical for a Klingon warrior. The Romulans are many things, but they're not known for benevolence. Whatever deal they're planning, it will benefit the Star Empire first and the Kalara eventually. Maybe. Which is why I need to establish the Kalara's sovereignty before the Romulans can claim them as clients. T'Challa replied, if I can negotiate a treaty that recognizes Kalara independence with protections against exploitation, I can limit the damage. But first, I need to convince them to accept help from a stranger who claims to be from the stars. The shuttle broke through the cloud layer, revealing the capital city in the pre-dawn darkness. It was massive. Millions of inhabitants pressed into a sprawling urban landscape that glowed with artificial light. The architecture was industrial, functional, aesthetic concerns clearly secondary to rapid expansion. T'Challa could see the parallels to Earth's own industrial revolution, the same prioritization of growth over sustainability that had nearly destroyed his own world before environmental consciousness emerged. They're repeating humanity's mistakes, he said softly. Every mistake we made, compressed into a few decades instead of centuries. No wonder they're collapsing. Captain Picard would say those mistakes are theirs to make, Kroteg observed. That learning from failure is essential to cultural development. He'd argue you're robbing them of that education. If the lesson kills the student, what good is it? T'Challa countered. Wisdom requires survival to pass on. The Kalara won't learn from their mistakes if they're extinct. The shuttle settled onto the central plaza with barely a whisper of displaced air. Kroteg's piloting skills evident in the smooth landing. Through the viewport, T'Challa could see the government building, a massive structure of stone and steel that spoke of authoritarian confidence. Guards were already responding, small figures rushing toward the plaza with weapons drawn. Here we go, T'Challa said, touching the control that would lower the shuttle's ramp. Ambassador Jirval, stay aboard unless I signal otherwise. Your appearance might be too alien, too threatening. Commander Kroteg, I'll need you with me. But let me do the talking. Can Klingons appear non-threatening? No, Kroteg replied bluntly. But we can appear honorable. Sometimes that's more important than appearing safe. The ramp descended, and T'Challa stepped out onto alien soil, his enhanced senses immediately cataloging a dozen details. The acrid taste of polluted air, the chemical smell of industrial waste, the distant sounds of a city waking up. The Kalara guards froze at the sight of him, weapons raised but trembling in hands that had never expected to point them at something from beyond their sky. The Kalara were humanoid, but distinctly alien, taller than humans, with gray-blue skin and large eyes adapted for low-light conditions. Their heads were elongated slightly, and their movements had a grace that suggested lighter gravity than Earth standard. The guard captain spoke in a language T'Challa didn't understand, his tone clearly demanding explanation. T'Challa touched the Universal Translator device Geordi had reluctantly provided before he'd left the Enterprise, a small concession that wouldn't work without Federation technology, but necessary for communication. The device whirred softly as it processed the Kalara language. Then, T'Challa spoke. I am T'Challa, King of Wakanda, from a world beyond your sky. I come in peace, with urgent information about your planet's environmental crisis and an offer of assistance. I request audience with your planetary leadership. The translator rendered his words into Kalara, and T'Challa watched the guards' reactions. Confusion, fear. One dropped his weapon entirely. Another raised his to fire, but the captain barked an order that stopped him. You claim to be from beyond? The guard captain's voice shook. From the night sky? The stars? Yes, T'Challa confirmed. I know this is difficult to comprehend. I know your world has believed itself alone in the universe. But you're not alone. There are thousands of civilizations among the stars, and your world is dying. I can help, but only if your leaders will hear me. The captain spoke rapidly into a communication device, clearly reporting to superiors. Within minutes, more guards arrived, then scientists with scanning equipment, then what appeared to be government officials in formal robes. The plaza was filling with people, dawn breaking over a scene that would fundamentally alter Kalara history forever. An elderly Kalara in elaborate ceremonial dress pushed through the crowd, her eyes sharp despite her age. She studied T'Challa and Kroteg with intense scrutiny, then spoke in a voice that carried absolute authority. I am First Arbiter Veleth, leader of the Kalara Unity Council. You stand on sacred ground, claiming to be from the stars. Our scientists have theorized about life beyond our world, but we have never had proof. You are either that proof or an elaborate deception. Which is it? T'Challa met her gaze directly. First Arbiter, I am proof that you are not alone, and I bring both warning and hope. Your world is dying, your atmosphere poisoned, your forests gone, your oceans acidifying. You have perhaps 6 months before the collapse becomes irreversible. But I possess knowledge that could help you reverse the damage, stabilize your environment, and save your people. Veleth's expression didn't change, but T'Challa caught the slight tremor in her hands. You claim knowledge of our environmental crisis. How? How long have you been watching us? I haven't been watching, T'Challa replied honestly. But others have. There are civilizations with technology far beyond yours who have monitored your world's development. They know you're dying, and they're content to let it happen because of a law that prohibits interference with worlds that haven't achieved faster-than-light travel. Why? The question came from a younger Kalara who'd pushed forward, a scientist judging by her equipment. Why would anyone watch a world die and do nothing? Because they believe intervention robs civilizations of the right to make their own mistakes. T'Challa explained. Because they've seen contact between advanced and developing worlds go badly before. Because they've decided that their principles are more important than individual lives. First Arbiter Velith studied him for a long moment. And you disagree with these principles? I believe the powerful have a responsibility to help the vulnerable, T'Challa said. Not to dominate, not to control, but to offer assistance with respect for sovereignty. In my world, my nation possessed technology far beyond our neighbors. We could have conquered, could have imposed our will. Instead, we chose isolation for centuries. But eventually, we learned that true strength lies not in hiding or dominating, but in selective, respectful cooperation. Wakanda, Velith repeated, testing the word. And this other being with you? Kroteg stepped forward, and several guards raised their weapons nervously. I am Commander Kroteg of the Klingon Empire. My people are warriors, conquerors by tradition. But even warriors recognize honor. King T'Challa acts with honor by offering you choice. The alternative, the Klingon alternative, would be to wait for your civilization to fall, then claim your planet's resources. He offers you survival and sovereignty. That's worth respecting. Resources? Velith's eyes narrowed. What resources does our dying world possess that starfarers would want? T'Challa hesitated, then chose honesty. Deep beneath your surface lies a mineral called dilithium. It's essential for faster-than-light travel. Your world sits on one of the largest deposits ever discovered. That's why multiple galactic powers are watching your decline. That's why I'm risking everything to offer you this choice before predators circle your corpse. The silence that followed was broken by the young scientist. You're saying our world is valuable to aliens, but they'd rather see us dead than negotiate with us? That's monstrous. That's the Prime Directive, T'Challa replied. A law that says civilizations have the right to live or die by their own choices, without outside interference. And yes, from your perspective, it probably seems monstrous. From theirs, it's the ultimate respect for your autonomy. First, Arbiter Velith looked at the sunrise breaking over her dying city, then back at T'Challa. And what do you want in return for this help? What does Wakanda gain from saving the Kalara? Nothing, T'Challa said simply. I'm not here representing Wakanda. The Unity Council chamber was a circular room designed for acoustic clarity, with tiered seating that allowed all representatives to see and be seen. T'Challa stood at the center, aware of hundreds of Kalara eyes fixed upon him. Politicians, scientists, military leaders, and civilian observers who'd been granted access to witness this unprecedented moment. Above, through a transparent dome, not unlike the one at the summit site, the morning sky showed its sickly amber hue, a constant reminder of the crisis that had brought them together. First Arbiter Velith occupied the highest seat, flanked by council members whose robes indicated different regional constituencies. She gestured for silence, and the murmuring crowd obeyed immediately. King T'Challa of Wakanda, she began, her voice carrying through the chamber with practiced authority. You stand before the Unity Council claiming to offer salvation from environmental catastrophe. You've demonstrated knowledge beyond our current scientific capabilities. But before we consider your proposal, The Council requires answers to fundamental questions. I'll answer whatever I can, First Arbiter, T'Challa replied. A council member to Velith's left, younger, with the aggressive posture of someone skeptical of everything, leaned forward. First question, why now? If your people and these others have been watching us, why reveal yourselves at this particular moment? Why not earlier, when intervention might have prevented the crisis rather than merely delaying it? T'Challa took a breath, choosing his words carefully. Because I'm not supposed to be here at all. The civilizations monitoring your world have a law, the Prime Directive, that prohibits contact with any species that hasn't achieved faster than light travel. They believe such contact causes more harm than good, that it robs developing civilizations of autonomy and creates dependency on advanced powers. And you disagree with this law? Another council member asked. I think it's more complicated than agreement or disagreement, T'Challa replied. The Prime Directive exists because terrible mistakes were made in the past. Advanced civilizations imposing their will on less developed worlds, destroying cultures, creating dependencies. Those concerns are valid. But I believe the law has become too rigid, too willing to sacrifice lives for philosophical purity. You're dying because of choices your civilization made about industrialization and environmental stewardship. But you're dying now, right when you might develop the wisdom to change course, because the law says no one can help you. The aggressive council member's expression didn't soften. So you're a renegade, breaking your own people's laws to impose your judgment on us. Not my people's laws. I'm not part of their civilization, T'Challa clarified. I'm from another universe entirely, brought here by accident. But yes, I'm breaking the Federation's Prime Directive. And I'm doing so because I believe you deserve the chance to save yourselves, even if that chance comes with risks. What risks? First Arbiter Velith asked, her tone sharp. What aren't you telling us, King T'Challa? T'Challa met her gaze directly. The risk that accepting help from advanced civilizations will fundamentally change your culture. That you'll become dependent on external technology rather than developing your own solutions. That contact with the wider galaxy will expose you to political forces you're not prepared to navigate. Empires that see your world's resources as strategic assets. Powers that will try to manipulate you for their own advantage. Like the Romulans who protected your shuttle, Velith said quietly. And T'Challa realized she was far more informed than he'd assumed. Yes, King T'Challa, we detected the other ships. We may not have space travel, but we have telescopes, orbital observation stations. We watched 3 massive vessels appear to shield you. Who are they, and what do they want? The Romulan Star Empire, T'Challa admitted. A powerful civilization that's been in conflict with the Federation for decades. They protected me because my actions serve their interests, undermining Federation policy in this sector, potentially gaining a new client state. I used their protection because it was the only way to reach you, but I'm aware of the price that might come with it. A murmur ran through the council chamber, voices rising in concern and anger. Velith raised her hand for silence again, but her expression had hardened. So by accepting your help, we become pawns in some galactic political game? She demanded. We escape environmental death only to become vassals to star-spanning empires? Not if we're smart about it, T'Challa countered. First Arbiter, I don't claim to have all the answers, but I know this. If you die, the game continues without you. The Federation and the Klingon Empire will debate who gets to claim your planet's dilithium. The Romulans will scheme for advantage. You'll be a footnote in their political calculations. But if you survive, if you stabilize your environment and eventually develop warp capability on your own terms. You become players instead of prizes. You gain agency, and agency is worth the risk. Assuming we believe you, the aggressive council member said. Assuming this isn't an elaborate scheme to gain our trust before conquest. How do we know anything you've said is true? How do we know you're not the invader, and these others you describe aren't the ones who would protect us? Before T'Challa could respond, a commotion at the chamber entrance drew everyone's attention. Guards were struggling to block someone, and T'Challa's enhanced hearing caught a familiar voice demanding access. I am Captain Jean-Luc Picard, of the Federation Starship Enterprise. I must speak to the Unity Council immediately. This is a matter of planetary security. T'Challa's jaw tightened. He'd known Picard would come, but he'd hoped for more time. Velith caught his expression and made a decision. Admit the captain, she ordered. Let us hear all perspectives before deciding Kalara's fate. The guard stepped aside, and Picard entered the chamber with Commander Riker and Lieutenant Worf flanking him. The Starfleet captain's expression was controlled, but T'Challa could see the anger and betrayal beneath the diplomatic mask. Picard stopped at the edge of the central floor, maintaining careful distance from T'Challa. First Arbiter Velith, Picard began, his voice carrying the weight of authority. I am here to correct dangerous misinformation and offer the Federation's perspective on this situation. Speak, Captain Picard, Velith replied. Though I warn you, we are tired of being told what's best for us by beings from the stars who've watched us die without intervention. Picard absorbed the rebuke, then continued. King T'Challa has violated the Prime Directive, the Federation's most sacred law, and in doing so, he's exposed your civilization to dangers you cannot yet comprehend. The knowledge he's offered, the contact he's established, has fundamentally altered your developmental trajectory. You can never again develop as you would have without external influence. We were developing toward extinction, the young scientist called out from her position in the observer's gallery. Is that really preferable to contaminated survival? That's not for me to decide, Picard replied, and T'Challa heard genuine anguish in his voice. That's the point of the Prime Directive. It's not about what I want or what seems merciful in the moment. It's about respecting that every civilization has the right to determine its own path, make its own mistakes, and live with the consequences, even when those consequences are tragic. Even when those consequences are extinction. T'Challa challenged, unable to stay silent. Captain, we've had this debate. You know my position. These people deserve more than philosophical respect from a distance. They deserve the chance to choose their own fate with full information. And you've given them that information shaped by your biases, your fears, your particular cultural perspective. Picard shot back. You've told them about Romulan threats and Klingon pragmatism. But have you told them about the dozens of civilizations destroyed by premature contact? About the worlds that lost their cultural identity because they became dependent on advanced technology they didn't develop themselves? I've told them the risks, T'Challa insisted. Have you? Picard moved closer, and the two leaders faced each other across the chamber floor. A confrontation that transcended personal conflict to represent two fundamentally different philosophies about power and responsibility. Have you told them that accepting Federation aid might require them to adopt Federation values? That joining the galactic community means surrendering aspects of their sovereignty to interstellar law? That the very act of accepting help from you creates obligations and dependencies that will shape their civilization for centuries? Those are choices they can make as informed adults, T'Challa replied. not decisions made for them by outsiders who've decided they're too primitive to handle the truth. First Arbiter Veleth's voice cut through the rising tension. "Captains, both of you, enough. You're debating philosophy while my people suffocate on poisoned air." She stood, and the chamber fell silent. The Unity Council has heard both perspectives. King T'Challa offers immediate assistance with acknowledged risks. Captain Picard offers what, exactly? The comfort of dying according to our own choices? Picard's expression shifted, and when he spoke, his voice carried profound sadness. "First Arbiter, I offer nothing except the truth that you're caught between terrible options. If you accept King T'Challa's help, you survive but lose control of your future development. If you refuse, you die with your cultural integrity intact, but your people extinct. The Prime Directive exists because we must not, make that choice for you." "Then let us make it," Veleth replied. "Council members, we vote now. Should Kalara accept assistance from King T'Challa, acknowledging the risks of galactic contact and potential cultural contamination? Or should we face our environmental crisis alone, preserving our developmental autonomy even if it costs us survival?" The chamber erupted in debate. Council members argued passionately, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of fear, hope, anger, and desperation. T'Challa watched families in the observers' gallery, parents holding children, elders clutching younger hands, all aware that their future was being decided in this moment. Commander Riker leaned toward Picard and whispered something T'Challa's enhanced hearing caught. "Sir, we can't let them vote based on incomplete information. They don't understand the full implications. They understand they're dying, number one," Picard replied quietly. "That's information enough to drive any decision. And perhaps they have the right to make this choice, even if we believe it's the wrong one." T'Challa caught those words and felt something shift between them. Not agreement, but recognition that both men were trapped by circumstances neither fully controlled. The vote took 20 minutes. Council members consulted with scientists, with military advisors, with religious leaders who'd been granted observer status. The chamber's atmosphere grew increasingly tense as positions hardened, and the reality of the decision's weight settled over everyone present. Finally, First Arbiter Veleth called for order. "The Unity Council has reached its decision through emergency protocol. 17 members in favor of accepting external assistance. 11 opposed. 4 abstaining. By the authority vested in this council by the Kalara people, I declare that we will accept King T'Challa's offer of environmental technology and guidance. We do so with open eyes, aware of the risks, but choosing survival with uncertainty over extinction with certainty." The chamber exploded, cheers from some quarters, angry protests from others, sobbing from parents who just won their children's futures, and council members who believed they'd just surrendered their civilization's soul. T'Challa felt the weight of that decision settle on his shoulders. He'd won. The Kalara would survive. But Picard's warnings echoed in his mind, and he wondered if decades from now, historians would remember this as the day the Kalara were saved or the day their culture died. Picard moved beside him, and when he spoke, his voice was pitched for T'Challa's ears alone. "I hope you're right, Your Majesty. I truly do. Because if you're wrong, if this leads to the cultural destruction I fear, you'll carry that responsibility for the rest of your life." "I know," T'Challa replied softly, "and I accept it. That's what it means to wield power, accepting responsibility for the consequences. Not hiding behind rules that let you feel moral while doing nothing. That's not what the Prime Directive is," Picard said. and there was steel beneath the sadness. But perhaps that's a debate for another time. Right now, we need to address the larger crisis. The Romulans are still in orbit, watching this play out. The Klingons are waiting to see how the Federation responds. And every government at that summit is calculating their next move based on what happens here. Your actions didn't just affect the Kalara, Your Majesty. You've potentially destabilized the entire sector's political balance. T'Challa turned to face him fully. Then help me stabilize it. Captain, we're on opposite sides of a philosophical divide, but we both want what's best for these people. Work with me. Use your diplomatic skills and Federation resources to ensure the Kalara emerge from this as an independent power, not a Romulan client state or Klingon tributary. We can argue about the Prime Directive later. Right now, let's make sure my interference doesn't lead to the very exploitation you feared. Picard studied him for a long moment, and T'Challa could see the captain's internal struggle. Duty warring with pragmatism, principle clashing with reality. Finally, Picard nodded slowly. Very well. But understand this. I'm not endorsing your actions. I'm attempting damage control for a situation you created. When this is over, you and I will have a very serious conversation about accountability. I look forward to it, T'Challa said, and meant it. First, Arbiter Velith had been conferring with her advisors, and now she addressed both men. King T'Challa, Captain Picard, the Unity Council requires both of you to participate in establishing contact protocols with the wider galaxy. We are, as Captain Picard noted, caught between terrible options, but we choose to navigate those options with as much wisdom and guidance as we can gather. Will you both help us? Yes, T'Challa said immediately. The Federation will provide whatever assistance we can, Picard confirmed, though his tone remained formal. Though I must note that official Federation policy prohibits direct aid to pre-warp civilizations. However, given that contact has already been established, we can offer diplomatic guidance and protection from exploitation while you develop your own technological capabilities. Diplomatic doublespeak for "will help now that it's too late to prevent contamination," Kroteg muttered from where he'd been standing guard near the entrance. At least be honest, Picard. The Federation's principles last exactly as long as they're convenient. And Klingon honesty is admirable until resources are at stake, Picard shot back. Don't pretend the Empire has clean hands in this, Commander. Before the argument could escalate, T'Challa raised his hands. Enough. First Arbiter, you asked for help from both of us. Here's my proposal. Immediate deployment of the environmental technology I've described, supervised by Kalara scientists with advisory support from Captain Picard's crew. Simultaneously, we establish diplomatic channels with all major galactic powers, Federation, Klingon Empire, even the Romulans, making it clear that Kalara is now under multiple powers' protection, creating a balance that prevents any single faction from dominating. A mutual protection arrangement, Velith said thoughtfully. So our survival becomes a matter of galactic interest for multiple parties, none of whom can afford to let the others gain exclusive influence. 3 weeks had passed since first contact, and Kalara the Four's capital had transformed into a hub of frantic diplomatic and scientific activity. The Unity Council chamber now hosted representatives from 5 galactic powers: Federation, Klingon Empire, Romulan Star Empire, 3 border world coalitions, and Kalara itself, with T'Challa serving as mediator between factions that had spent decades viewing each other as adversaries. Captain Picard stood at the observation window overlooking the city, watching as the first generation of bioengineered algae blooms spread across the water treatment facilities below. Dr. Crusher's reports indicated atmospheric carbon levels had already decreased by 7%, a small victory, but one that bought the Kalara precious months to implement broader environmental reforms. Remarkable, isn't it? T'Challa's voice came from behind him. The Wakandan king had spent the past 3 weeks in constant motion, shuttling between enterprise consultations, ground-level implementation oversight, and exhausting diplomatic sessions that often lasted 18 hours. He looked tired, but satisfied. 3 weeks ago, this world was dying in ignorance. Now they're negotiating mining rights with the Klingon Empire, while implementing Federation-approved environmental protocols. And caught in the middle of Romulan schemes, border world anxieties, and a dozen other political complications they're not prepared to handle, Picard replied, though his tone lacked the sharp edge it had carried during their initial confrontation. Your Majesty, I won't claim this has gone as badly as I feared. The Kalara have shown remarkable adaptability. But the question remains, what happens when you leave? When they have to navigate galactic politics without your mediation? T'Challa moved to stand beside him at the window. They'll struggle. They'll make mistakes. Some factions will try to exploit them. But Captain, they'll be alive to face those challenges. And they're learning faster than either of us anticipated. First Arbiter Velith is already playing powers against each other with skill that would make a Romulan diplomat proud. As if summoned by her name, Velith entered the observation room with Commander Data and a Kalara scientist T'Challa had come to respect, Minister Torveth, the young woman who'd first validated his environmental technology. Both looked exhausted but energized by the constant crisis management. Captains, Velith began, using the plural address that had become standard over the past weeks. We have a situation that requires your combined counsel. The Romulan delegation has offered to provide cloaking technology in exchange for exclusive mining rights to 1/3 of our dilithium deposits. The Klingons have countered with an offer of defense platforms and military training. And the Federation has suggested we delay all such agreements until we've developed indigenous space travel capabilities. Each offer serves their interests more than yours, T'Challa observed. The Romulans want strategic advantage from cloaked bases in this sector. The Klingons want military allies on the Federation border. And the Federation wants to slow your development while appearing to respect your sovereignty. Picard bristled slightly, but didn't contradict him. Instead, he addressed Velith directly. First Arbiter, the Federation's position is that premature acceptance of advanced military technology would make you dependent on external powers for your own defense. We recommend developing your own space capability first, then negotiating from a position of genuine strength rather than desperation. Which could take decades, Velith replied, during which any of these powers could change their minds about respecting our independence. Captain Picard, I understand your Federation values patience and developmental autonomy. But my people are still breathing poison air. We need allies who'll protect us while we stabilize, not advisors who tell us to wait until we're strong enough to not need protection. Minister Torveth stepped forward, displaying a datapad with complex calculations. King T'Challa, your environmental technology is working, but full implementation requires resources we're struggling to secure. Our industrial base was designed for exploitation, not sustainability. Retooling will cost more than our economy can currently sustain. We need investment, real investment, not just diplomatic promises. Data tilted his head in that characteristic gesture of processing multiple data streams. Minister Torveth, I have been analyzing Kalara's economic capacity and the various offers on the table. If I may propose an alternative framework, what if Kalara established a consortium approach to resource development? Multiple powers invest in your environmental stabilization and industrial transformation in exchange for graduated access to dilithium exports. No single power gains exclusive rights, but all parties benefit from your world's recovery. A cooperative model, T'Challa said, immediately seeing the potential. The border worlds provide initial investment since they're most desperate for resources and least threatening militarily. The Federation provides technological expertise and training. The Klingons provide security guarantees against external threats. Even the Romulans get access to dilithium markets without exclusive control that would destabilize the sector. Picard was silent for a moment, and T'Challa could see him working through the implications. Finally, the captain nodded slowly. It's actually brilliant. No single power controls Kalara, which removes the primary source of conflict. The Kalara benefit from multiple sources of assistance without becoming dependent on any one patron. And the dilithium flows to markets that need it, reducing strategic competition over this world. There's precedent, Data added. The Rigel system operates under a similar cooperative framework, with multiple civilizations sharing resource development and governance. It's stable, prosperous, and has avoided the political entanglements that plague worlds dominated by single power influence. Veleth exchanged glances with Torveth, and T'Challa watched as the Kalara leaders communicated through subtle expressions he was learning to read. Finally, Veleth spoke. We would need guarantees. Treaties that bind all parties to respect our sovereignty, prevent military occupation, and ensure we eventually gain full control of our own resources once our economy stabilizes. Starfleet would support such a framework, Picard said. In fact, the Federation has been seeking exactly this kind of multilateral cooperation in border regions. Your world could become a model for peaceful resource sharing rather than strategic competition. The Klingons won't like it, T'Challa warned. Chancellor Gowron wanted exclusive access or nothing. This dilutes Klingon influence. Then we remind the Chancellor that diluted influence is better than expensive conflict, Veleth replied, and T'Challa felt a surge of pride at how quickly she'd absorbed the ruthless calculus of interstellar politics. The Klingon Empire gets access to dilithium and a stable border. They lose exclusivity, but gain certainty. That's a trade any rational power should accept. Assuming rational actors, Picard cautioned. First, arbiter. Interstellar diplomacy involves egos, historic grievances, and irrational pride. What looks logical on paper often crashes against the reality of political theater. Then we make the theater work for us, Veleth said. King T'Challa, you've taught me that leverage comes from making yourself valuable to multiple parties. If we present this consortium framework as Kalara's sovereign choice, not a compromise forced by weakness, but a confident assertion of our independence, we turn potential objections into opportunities for powers to demonstrate their respect for emerging civilizations. T'Challa caught Picard's eye and saw the same thought reflected there. Veleth was going to be formidable. The Kalara had chosen their leader well. Captain Picard, Veleth continued, I need the Federation to formally sponsor this proposal at the summit. King T'Challa has political capital with the Klingons through Commander Kroteg's support and personal respect he's earned. But the Federation carries institutional weight that neither of us possesses. Will you advocate for Kalara's consortium model? Picard straightened, and T'Challa recognized the posture, a Starfleet captain accepting command responsibility. I will. But first, Arbiter, understand what you're asking. If the Federation formally sponsors your independence framework, we're committing to defend it against challenges. That means potential conflict with powers who reject the model. It means Starfleet resources dedicated to protecting your world. It means the Prime Directive, already compromised by King T'Challa's intervention, is essentially abandoned in favor of active engagement with your civilization. Is that a problem, Captain? Velith asked, and there was steel beneath her diplomatic courtesy. Because, from where I stand, your Prime Directive was always a convenient fiction. You were going to engage with Kalara eventually, either after we died and you claimed our resources, or after we somehow miraculously survived and developed warp drive. King T'Challa simply forced you to engage now, honestly, while we had leverage to negotiate fair terms. The observation room fell silent. Minister Torveth looked nervous at Velith's bluntness. Data's expression remained neutral but attentive. T'Challa held his breath, waiting to see how Picard would respond to having his philosophy dissected by the very civilization he'd sought to protect through non-interference. Picard's expression cycled through several emotions: surprise, anger, consideration, and finally something that might have been resignation or acceptance. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of a man reevaluating principles he'd held for decades. First, Arbiter, you may be right. The Prime Directive was designed to prevent harm, but perhaps it had evolved into something else. A way to avoid difficult moral choices by claiming they weren't ours to make. King T'Challa forced those choices into the open, and the result? He gestured toward the window, where Kalara workers were installing environmental systems under Federation supervision, while Klingon security officers maintained perimeter watches against potential threats. The result is messy, complicated, and fraught with risks. But it's also alive with possibility in a way that principled extinction never could be. Captain, T'Challa said quietly, recognizing the magnitude of what Picard was admitting. Are you saying you were wrong about the Prime Directive? I'm saying the Prime Directive, like any principle, must be examined against its outcomes, Picard replied carefully. I still believe non-interference protects developing civilizations from the worst impulses of advanced powers. But I also see that absolute non-interference can become another form of harm. The harm of abandonment, of watching suffering we could prevent because we've prioritized our moral comfort over others' survival. He turned to face T'Challa directly. Your Majesty, you challenged everything I believed about power and responsibility. You forced me to confront the contradictions in Federation policy. And while I still have profound concerns about cultural contamination and developmental autonomy, I cannot deny that the Kalara are better off alive and navigating complexity than they would be extinct with their cultural purity intact. That's quite an admission from Starfleet's finest diplomat, T'Challa observed. It's an admission from a man who's lived long enough to know that certainty is the enemy of wisdom, Picard replied. I was certain the Prime Directive was right. You demonstrated that certainty was itself a form of arrogance. The arrogance of believing our philosophy was so perfect it could justify any outcome, even extinction. Velith cleared her throat, drawing their attention back to practical matters. Gentlemen, this philosophical reconciliation is fascinating, but we have a summit to prepare for. Captain Picard, will you sponsor Kalara's consortium framework? I will, Picard confirmed. I'll contact Starfleet Command immediately and make the case for formal Federation support. It won't be easy. There will be admirals who see this as dangerous precedent, officers who believe we're abandoning our principles. But I'll advocate for Kalara's independence with everything I have. And I'll work the Klingon angle, T'Challa added. Commander Kroteg respects strength and honor. If we frame the consortium as Kalara asserting sovereign power rather than begging for scraps, the Klingon delegation will find it harder to object without appearing to disrespect a warrior culture's self-determination. What about the Romulans? Minister Torveth asked nervously. They've been persistent in seeking private audiences. I don't trust them. You shouldn't, T'Challa and Picard said simultaneously, then exchanged glances that suggested their weeks working together had created unexpected synchronicity. Data provided the analysis. The Romulan Star Empire's strategic interest lies in preventing either Federation or Klingon dominance of this sector. A consortium framework actually serves Romulan interests by maintaining balance of power. Commander Tomalak will object publicly to preserve negotiating leverage. But ultimately, the Romulans will accept any framework that prevents their rivals from gaining exclusive advantage. Then we have our strategy, Veleth concluded. Minister Torveth, work with Commander Data to finalize the consortium proposal's technical details. King T'Challa, coordinate with the Klingon delegation. Captain Picard, make your case to Starfleet. And She smiled. And T'Challa saw the expression of a leader who'd found her footing in impossible circumstances. I'll prepare to stand before the assembled powers and demand they respect Kalara's sovereignty. 3 weeks ago, I was first arbiter of a dying world. Today, I'm negotiating the terms of our survival with star-spanning empires. Quite a transformation. You've earned it, T'Challa said sincerely. First arbiter, when I came here, I hoped to save your people. What I didn't anticipate was how quickly you'd seize control of your own fate. The Kalara don't need saviors anymore. They need partners. And that's exactly what you've demanded from these powers. Because you taught us we could demand it, Veleth replied. King T'Challa, whatever philosophical debates you and Captain Picard continue to have, please know this. Kalara will remember the king from another universe who cared enough to break the rules. Our children will grow up breathing clean air because you chose action over principle. That's worth everything. After Veleth and Torveth departed to prepare for the summit, T'Challa and Picard remained at the window, watching the sunset paint the healing world in shades of amber and gold. No longer the sickly pollution hue, but the natural colors of an atmosphere beginning to recover. What happens to you now? Picard asked. The subspace anomaly that brought you here is still under study. Data believes we might be able to recreate the conditions and send you home. To Wakanda, T'Challa said softly. To my people, who are undoubtedly worried. To responsibilities I abandoned when I was pulled into your universe. He paused, considering. But Captain, I won't regret what I've done here. Even if it means I can't return, even if I'm stuck in this universe navigating Federation politics and Klingon honor codes. I saved a civilization. The Black Panther's purpose transcends universes, it seems. You did more than save a civilization, Picard said. You challenged mine. You forced the Federation to examine principles we'd held sacred and ask whether they'd become excuses for inaction. That's a gift, Your Majesty, even if it's an uncomfortable one. And you taught me that principles have value even when they lead to difficult outcomes, T'Challa acknowledged. That rushing to act without considering long-term consequences can cause harm even when intentions are pure. The Prime Directive isn't just bureaucratic cover. It's born from real tragedies, real mistakes. 6 weeks after first contact, Captain Picard stood in the Enterprise's astrophysics lab, watching Lieutenant Commander Data make final adjustments to the apparatus designed to recreate the quantum bridge anomaly. T'Challa waited patiently beside him, his Black Panther suit charged and ready for dimensional transit, while Dr. Crusher monitored his vital signs with equipment that had become familiar over their weeks of collaboration. The Kalara Consortium Treaty had been signed 3 days prior, a landmark agreement that bound 5 galactic powers to respect Kalara sovereignty while cooperatively developing the world's dilithium resources. First, Arbiter Velith had stood before the assembled delegates and delivered a speech that would be studied in Federation diplomatic academies for decades. A perfect balance of gratitude and assertiveness, acknowledging help received while demanding respect as equals. "The calculations are complete," Data reported. "I have successfully isolated the quantum signature that brought King T'Challa to our universe. There is a 78.3% probability that recreating these conditions will return him to his origin point in space and time." "And the other 22%? T'Challa asked. "Ranges from depositing you elsewhere in the multiverse to catastrophic dimensional collapse," Data replied with his characteristic bluntness. "However, I would not recommend this procedure if I believed the risks outweighed the potential benefits." Picard placed a hand on T'Challa's shoulder. "Your Majesty, you don't have to do this today. You've established yourself here. The Kalara consider you their advocate. The border worlds respect your mediation skills. Even Chancellor Gowron has offered you an honorary position in Klingon diplomatic corps. You could build a life in this universe." "I have a life in my universe," T'Challa replied gently. "A kingdom that needs its king. A sister who's probably turned Wakanda upside down worrying about me. Responsibilities I swore sacred oaths to fulfill. Captain, I appreciate everything this universe has taught me, but I don't belong here. I need to go home." "I understand," Picard said, and he did. "But know this, you've left your mark on the Federation. The Prime Directive Review Commission has been formed. Starfleet Academy is adding new coursework on intervention ethics. You've sparked conversations that will shape Federation policy for generations. Whatever universe you inhabit, Your Majesty, you've made this one better for having been here." T'Challa removed his mask, meeting Picard's eyes directly. "And you've made me a better king. I came here certain that action was always superior to inaction, that power demanded intervention. You taught me that wisdom sometimes means restraint, that respecting others' agency requires accepting outcomes we find painful. I'll carry those lessons back to Wakanda." The lab door opened, and an unexpected delegation entered. First Arbiter Velith, Minister Torveth, Commander Kroteg, Ambassador Zerval, and even Worf, who'd requested permission to say goodbye to the warrior king who challenged his captain and his principles with equal force. "We heard you were leaving," Velith said, her voice thick with emotion. "We couldn't let you go without expressing what Kalara owes you. King T'Challa, you saved our world. You gave us a future. Whatever debates rage about whether you should have interfered, my people will remember you as the stranger from the stars who cared enough to act. And the Klingon Empire will remember you as a warrior who understood that true honor sometimes means breaking rules to do what's right." Kroteg added, "If you ever return to this universe, King T'Challa, you'll find allies in the Klingon diplomatic corps. We respect strength of conviction." Ambassador Zerval's wings trembled as she spoke. "My people remember dying while others debated. You chose action when it mattered most. That courage honors all civilizations who faced extinction, wondering if anyone among the stars cared enough to help. T'Challa accepted their gratitude with the humility of a leader who understood that his actions, however necessary, carried consequences he couldn't fully predict. First Arbiter, the work is just beginning. The consortium framework gives you tools, but you'll need wisdom and courage to wield them effectively. Learn from every power you encounter. Trust your own judgment, and never let anyone, Federation, Klingon, Romulan, or any other, convince you that Kalara's voice matters less than theirs. We won't, Beleth promised. Because you taught us we could stand as equals even when we don't feel equal. That's perhaps your greatest gift. Not the technology or the diplomatic framework, but the belief that we deserve to survive and thrive. Data checked his console. The quantum field is stable. We must proceed within the next 4.3 minutes or risk harmonic decay. T'Challa replaced his mask. The Black Panther once more fully formed. He moved to the center of the apparatus, where glowing energy fields hummed with barely contained dimensional forces. As he took his position, he spoke one final time. Captain Picard, thank you for challenging me even when it meant conflict. Your principles, however much we disagreed about their application, came from genuine conviction to do right. The galaxy needs leaders like you and leaders who question you. Together, perhaps we push each other toward wisdom neither could reach alone. Two bridges instead of barriers, Picard replied, echoing T'Challa's Wakandan saying, Safe travels, Your Majesty. May you find your kingdom as you left it. May the lessons you've learned here serve Wakanda well. Data activated the quantum bridge, and the lab filled with the same blue-gold light that had heralded T'Challa's arrival weeks before. The king from Wakanda stood at the center of forces that bent reality itself. Surrounded by beings from a dozen worlds he'd saved, challenged, and fundamentally changed. As the light intensified, T'Challa raised his hand in salute, a gesture that transcended cultures and universes, speaking to shared understanding between warriors, leaders, and those who carry power's terrible weight. Then the light collapsed, the quantum field destabilized, and the space where T'Challa had stood was empty. Picard stared at the vacant spot, feeling the absence of someone who'd become, against all expectations, both adversary and friend. Around him, the others stood in contemplative silence, each processing what T'Challa's presence had meant and what his departure signified. Captain, Dr. Crusher said softly, sensors confirm successful dimensional transit. He made it home. Good, Picard replied, though his voice carried complex emotion. That's good. Worf spoke with unusual gentleness. He was a warrior of honor, Captain. He challenged you to be better, even when it meant conflict. That's the mark of someone who cares about truth more than comfort. The Klingon Empire will sing songs of the Black Panther who crossed universes to save strangers. And the Federation will debate his legacy for decades, Picard added. Whether he was reckless interventionist or moral exemplar, whether he saved Kalara or contaminated them, whether his actions represent what we should aspire to or what we must guard against. Perhaps he was both, Data suggested. Human philosophy often presents binary choices, right or wrong, good or evil. But King T'Challa's intervention demonstrates that moral reality is more complex. He acted from compassion and created both benefits and complications. The Kalara live, but their culture is forever altered. The question isn't whether he was right or wrong, but whether the benefits outweigh the costs, and that answer may take centuries to determine. Picard nodded slowly, then turned to Beleth. First Arbiter, Your people are about to navigate challenges no pre-warp civilization has faced. The Federation will honor our treaty commitments, but ultimately, Kalara's future is yours to shape. What will you do with the chance King T'Challa gave you? Veleth's expression showed the determination of a leader who'd been forged in fire. We'll survive, Captain. We'll learn. We'll make mistakes and hopefully grow from them. We'll build a civilization that honors both our indigenous traditions and the wider galaxy we've now joined. And every time we face an impossible choice, we'll remember the king from another universe who chose action over comfort, who risked everything to give strangers a chance. In times of crisis, the wise build bridges while the foolish build barriers. Picard quoted softly. He certainly built bridges. Between universes, between philosophies, between beings who thought they had nothing to learn from each other. As the delegates filed out, returning to lives forever changed by 6 weeks of crisis and transformation, Picard remained in the lab, staring at the quantum apparatus, now powered down and silent. Somewhere in another universe, T'Challa was likely explaining his absence to a worried Wakandan court. And here, in this universe, the ripples of his intervention would expand outward through Federation policy, Kalara development, and the ongoing debate about what advanced civilizations owed to developing worlds. The Prime Directive would survive, but changed, tempered by recognition that absolute principles sometimes collided with moral necessity. The Kalara would thrive or struggle, but alive to face their future. And Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Starfleet's finest diplomat, would carry the memory of a king who'd forced him to question everything he thought he knew about power, responsibility, and the price of principles. Somewhere among the stars, sensors detected new worlds, new civilizations, and new opportunities for the eternal questions. When should we help? When should we refrain? And who has the wisdom to know the difference?